Aliens have indeed landed among us. They intend to take no prisoners, and their ultimate goal clearly is to enslave the human race.
You're listening to That's Pretty Dark,
the podcast where we talk about all the entertainment that scared us as children
and still haunts us as adults. So grab your flashlight and join us as we take a frightfully nostalgic look over our shoulders.
And under our beds.
And in our closets.
And together, we'll realize, whoa, that's pretty dark. We interrupt this podcast intro to bring you late-breaking news. The president has declared war on American cities and also Tylenol. And we're also nearing a complete government shutdown. So no one panic at all.
Is this a radio hoax?
Oh, wait. Sorry. No. This isn't fiction. Those are the actual headlines. I got it mixed up. I'm sorry. I was trying to do a bit. I'm really sorry to anybody that I frightened with the actual headlines, because they are honestly more frightening than fiction at this point.
It's got to be a hoax.
Gotta be a hoax, right?
It can't be real. What's so funny is right as we were beginning to record, we literally hit the record button and said, okay, now we start. The Twilight Zone song came on my Halloween playlist.
So that's what was backing me as you heard it.
Yes.
That helped you, at least. Probably not the Darkling.
I thought for a second I had entered the Twilight Zone because there's no way this is reality.
No way. And yet. I don't know. Whatever. We just have to come back down to whatever Earth this is.
Whatever version of
and kick
Earth.
off the month of October with an episode that you and I have looked forward to since the very first inklings of this show entered our little football heads, which is Arnold's Halloween.
There's no better episode to do for our 4-year anniversary episode either.
I feel that way too,
It's like our whole show wrapped up in one little episode. It's the nostalgia, it's Hey Arnold, but it's also...
It's nostalgia, it's history,
it's
media, it's sociology.
Borderline true crime.
Really, it's everything that we love about doing this show encapsulated. And that made me really, really excited for it to be here this October. And to be the first October episode. It may not be the first episode we put out in October, but it's the first one we planned for October, so that counts for something. So today, for our 4th podcast anniversary on That's Pretty Dark, where my name is Kaylin.
My name is Christian.
We are going to dive deep into the history and the hoax and the lore behind this beloved, one-of-a-kind, very of its time Arnold episode.
It's so fun. I watched it twice today.
I think I watched it 4 times total.
I'm jealous.
And this episode premiered on either October 26th or 29th, 1997, we think. Who knows? We never know. But like we're saying, it was so dialed in from start to finish. And it makes total sense why that is, because it was written by Craig Bartlett, Jolene Solibert, and Steve Vixton.
It moves so fast how much stuff happens in this episode.
How much of a plot line is packed in there.
They had to fit so much into 23 minutes.
And they had extra time because it was a special.
Yeah, this is one of those specials that they did a few of that it took up the entire half hour, not just one segment that was like 11 minutes.
Which also are still insanely packed with content always.
How they do it.
But it was really cool to see these creators in this format to get a little more time with it and to really feel it out. It was directed by Jamie Mitchell. We might have talked about Jamie during Haunted Train, which they also directed along with the vast majority of season 1 of Hey Arnold. So these were just the creators of the show, the minds behind all of this magic, with a concept that it feels like they probably had on the back burner for a while. It's the kind of thing that I feel like they were personally stoked to do.
Oh, yeah. They did a few holidays too. They had Arnold's Christmas, Arnold's Valentine. They kind of wanted to do up big holidays like we do.
They loved a holiday. And in turn, so did we.
Yeah.
It felt like the season was happening when we got these special episodes on Nickelodeon,
Oh, yeah. Big time.
This episode and this concept completely captivated me as a kid. And it went beyond just that usual enduring charm of Hillwood. So before we get to all of the Halloween goodness that is packed into Hey Arnold and Hillwood, we promise we're going to talk about all of that. Let's first take a little detour back to the 1930s. The alien in the room is, of course, that this episode's entire premise is based on the 1938 War of the Worlds radio broadcast, which was a dramatized reimagining of the H.G. Wells science fiction novel. And I distinctly remember my dad explaining this phenomenon to like a 7 or 8 year old me.
Yeah.
I don't know what brought it up. I don't know why we were talking about it. It had to have been something on the radio that triggered his memory.
Sure.
But I remember vividly being in the back seat of our minivan at the time and my dad like telling me this story about how this happened. And there, you know, this was a radio broadcast and people thought it was real news. And like, he told me the whole story. And I was just like, I was fascinated. I was like, how could that possibly happen? And he's like, you know, radio was the medium then. And of course, this was far before his time as well.
People talk on the radio and people take it seriously. Oh, what's that? What's that about?
Yeah, what's that like?
It's a funny joke because we're podcasters.
We're the ones behind the microphone now. But Baby Kaylin was really excited to learn more about this on a larger scale on behalf of you and the Darklings, and I'm really excited to tell you all about it today. I have so many pages.
I actually don't know much about it. I know the like BuzzFeed article version of it that plays up the drama and how, you know, the world was going to end because of Orson Welles and like all this stuff, but I don't know the true history or anything about that.
Well, after today, you will.
I'll know everything.
As you said, this all started with Orson Welles, not to be confused with H.G. Wells. Orson Welles was an innovative, influential filmmaker and actor who got his break in acting and producing plays in the 1920s. He was probably best known for Citizen Kane, which came out in 1941. It is considered one of the greatest films, if not the greatest film of all time, by a lot of different critics and the way that it influenced film and media. And he co-wrote that, he produced, directed, and starred in it as the title character. And I assume for Darklings here today, the name Kane is going to sound familiar.
Yeah, that was the first thought I had.
But before Citizen Kane, in 1938, Orson and his merry band at the successful Mercury Theater Repertory Company, who were producing plays for Broadway, had been invited by CBS to create a second season of their weekly hour-long radio show, which presented classic literary works, which was aptly dubbed the Mercury Theater on the Air.
I see.
Orson was particular about all aspects of this production, and according to Wikipedia, he presented a special challenge to the CBS sound effects team. Reported by The New Yorker. His programs called for all sorts of unheard of effects, and he could be satisfied with nothing short of perfection. For the first episode of the first season of this radio program, Dracula, the sound team searched for the perfect sound of a stake being driven through the heart of the vampire. They first presented a cabbage and a sharpened broomstick for Wells' approval, but he said it was much too leafy. He said to drill a hole in the cabbage and fill it with water because they needed blood.
Yeah, you need that squirt.
When that sound experiment also failed to satisfy Wells, he considered a while and then asked for a watermelon. The New Yorker recalled the effect as such.
Wells stepped from the control booth, seized a hammer, and took a crack at the melon. Even the studio audience shuddered at the sound. That night, on a coast-to-coast network, he gave millions of listeners nightmares with what, even though it be produced with a melon and hammer, is indubitably the sound a stake would make piercing the heart of an undead body.
They tackled other heavy hitters such as Treasure Island, A Tale of Two Cities, The Count of Monte Cristo, and more throughout their first season, with Wells and his collaborator John Houseman adapting the scripts themselves. By the time they were planning for their 1938 Halloween special, they had hired screenwriter Howard Koch to assist. They considered adapting M.P. Shields' The Purple Cloud and Arthur Conan Doyle's The Lost World before purchasing the radio rights to The War of the Worlds. And get this, Houseman later suspected that Orson Welles himself had never even read it.
Like me.
Like us.
Like us.
The novel followed the attempted invasion of Earth by beings from Mars, beings with much greater intelligence and more advanced weapons than humans. These Martian invaders intended to eliminate humankind and conquer Earth due to their own planet's perilous fate in, quoting, the last stage of exhaustion.
Oh.
Written between 1895 and 1897 and serialized in Pearson's Magazine in the UK and Cosmopolitan Magazine in the US, a full novelization was published in 1898. And it was one of the earliest stories to detail a conflict between humankind and an extraterrestrial race.
Man, H.G. Wells is my boy.
Yeah, me too.
Man in the Moon, Time Machine.
Yeah, The Time Machine. If you're a fan of Phil of the Future, who attended H.G. Wells High School.
I don't know if I like Men in the Moon better or The Island of Dr. Moreau. It's got to be Dr. Moreau.
Yeah.
That one's just such a freaking spooky classic.
Yeah, he's incredible. And here's a side note to say something that I'm not sure we've really dug into in our previous extraterrestrial conversation, which we've had some of on the show. I think it's really important to remember on a show like this, where we're recognizing that the style of the monster reflects so much about fears and sociological considerations of the time. War of the Worlds and similar invasion literature had been variously interpreted as commentary on the theory of evolution, imperialism, and Victorian-era fears, superstitions, and prejudices. H.G. Wells himself noted that the inspiration for the plot was the catastrophic effect of European colonization on the Aboriginal Tasmanians. And some historians have argued that Wells wrote the book to encourage his readership to question the morality of imperialism.
That's great.
It's really similar to how we've often connected vampires and werewolves to xenophobia.
But it seems like he's flipped it and like has like more of a moral than than those, than those.
Yeah, it's less just implied and more overtly carrying out a scenario that many Victorian era upper class citizens may not have considered.
Yeah, well, it's flipping it on its head and saying, yeah, well, how would you like it if you were picked on?
Exactly.
Like this? It's utilizing the E word we're not supposed to use anymore. Empathy, the most controversial term of our age, supposedly.
Yeah, and that's the very next sentence that I had written. It's a really tough spot to be in culturally when the most privileged need a whole ass make-believe monster, or entire race in this case, to inspire empathy or to consider other perspectives. And unfortunately, not much has changed. Anyways, inspired by Ronald Knox's radio hoax, Broadcasting the Barricades, that was broadcast by the BBC in 1926, which depicted a revolution in the streets of London.
I see.
A then 23-year-old Orson Welles had quite the vision to update the events of this European novel as having happened not only contemporarily and closer to its audience, but in real time.
So this is like a whole radio program produced, created, put on, hosted by Orson Welles. It's a whole show that people know exist, and they take different bits of literature, and then they repurpose them for radio drama. Yeah,
CBS had put them on the air the previous summer, and they did like, I don't know how many episodes, like a 10, 12 episode run of episodes throughout the summer, hour long. And then the next year they said, hey, come back and do this again.
So please explain how anybody heard this and wasn't aware of that, but said, this has got to be real.
Right. It's a little confusing because, yes, he was already known to be doing this, but as I'll discuss later, this wasn't the most popular radio program on the air at the time.
Until.
So not everyone would have had that background information necessarily.
Wells said, I had conceived the idea of doing a radio broadcast in such a manner that a crisis would actually seem to be happening. It would be broadcast in such a dramatized form as to appear to be a real event taking place at the time, rather than a mere radio play.
So in reference to your question, he really did want this to sound like current event.
I mean, sure. I get it. It's sensationalism, I'd love to break a story, a case, crack a case wide open on our podcast.
We did earlier. You don't remember?
Oh, yeah.
We didn't exactly break the story.
How could I forget?
But still, it's a big ask to convert this novel to a radio drama, and not only to a radio drama, but a current event stylized radio drama. Coke really had his work cut out for him because he was the one writing the script behind it. 36 hours before the broadcast, and with the first draft past due, Coke called Houseman in distress, claiming that he couldn't make The War of the Worlds credible as a radio play. And then Houseman joined him, and they worked through the night and ended up with a draft. Following a cast reading the next day, associate producer Paul Stewart made an acetate recording without music or sound effects, which Wells listened to between responsibilities for a stage play that was also opening this same week.
Busy guy.
And he also thought it was kind of dull, so he advised the writers to add more news flashes and eyewitness accounts to create a stronger sense of urgency and excitement.
Oh my God, that's fun though.
So Houseman, Coke, and Stewart reworked the script again that night using the names of real places and people whenever possible.
Jeez.
On October 28th, the script was sent to Davidson Taylor, executive producer for CBS, and the network legal department. Their response was that the script was too credible, and its realism had to be toned down. Because using the names of actual institutions and places could be actionable, CBS insisted on about 28 changes in phrasing, and with the way things went, it's probably good that they did.
That's so fun, though. Under protest and with a deep sense of grievance, we changed the Hotel Biltmore to a non-existent Park Plaza. Transamerica Radio News to Intercontinental Radio News, the Columbia Broadcasting Building to Broadcasting Building, and so on.
They had to tone down the specificity just in case.
Sure.
And I get that. That makes sense. I think that was probably a good call by CBS. But at the same time, I understand with Orson Welles telling them, hey, make it more real, make it more realistic. They'd spent all this time doing that and then had to do it over again.
Back to the drawing board, everybody.
On October 29th, Stewart rehearsed the show with the sound effects team and gave special attention to the crowd scenes, the echo of cannon fire, and the sound of boat horns in New York Harbor. They wanted this to all sound as real as it could within their studio. In the early afternoon of October 30th, Bernard Herrmann and his orchestra arrived in the studio where Welles had now taken over production of that evening's program. So this was all going to begin, live on the radio this night.
A live broadcast. Can you imagine
a
if
live
we had to just
broadcast?
If all we had to do was talk into microphones live?
If we were to do That's Pretty Dark live.
Not include all the sound effects they had to add.
Yeah, there are a lot of podcasts who do live on stage, episodes and such, and that strikes fear into my heart.
When we first started, I had friends ask me if we were going to do our podcast live. And I was like,
yeah,
hell no.
Not only that, but for whom?
Yeah, seriously, who would even listen?
And where?
When, the minute we're recording. Start a podcasting OnlyFans. Join our live feed.
Yeah, we just get online and do a live feed, live reading. It could be fun. It's a fun, activity. It's a once in a while thing, but they were doing this every single week.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
But then, at 8 p.m. on October 30th, 1938, the story's new imagining swept the nation via the CBS radio network. The broadcast began with an introductory monologue based closely on the opening of the source novel. We know now that in the early years of the 20th century, this world was being watched closely by intelligences greater than man's and yet as mortal as his own. We know now that as human beings busied themselves about their various concerns, they were scrutinized and studied, perhaps almost as narrowly as a man with a microscope might scrutinize the transient creatures that swarm and multiply in a drop of water. With infinite complacence, people went to and fro over the earth about their little affairs, serene in the assurance of their dominion over this small spinning fragment of solar driftwood, which by chance or design, man has inherited out of the dark mystery of time and space. Yet across an immense ethereal gulf, minds that are to our minds as ours are to the beasts in the jungle, intellects vast, cool, and unsympathetic regard this earth with envious eyes, and slowly and surely drew their plans against us.
There's some good references in there to this episode.
The cool thing is that so much of that sounds like it could be written in Hey Arnold.
I know, because it's just over the top enough to fit
it
into like a dramatic character.
Yeah, into their series. I think it's so good. Solar Driftwood. I clocked that too. I was like, that's something they would write, but it isn't. They didn't have to. H.G. Wells already did.
Oh my God, H.G. Wells.
But the tone of this whole monologue, it's beautiful. And as we were saying, it immediately packs this punch of like, imperialism is bad. And consider if you weren't the one with dominion.
Yeah, think for 1 second, you're not at the top of the food chain.
Exactly. And it's so beautifully written, but there are also these like meta layers in it. They made it very contemporary. They referenced the 39th year of the 20th century, which came with great disillusionment. So it's almost as if they're speaking about a year in the future or something very close to the time frame where it's happening, but not so close that it would be considered current and factual breaking news. So there were these little references tied into this monologue that made it pretty clear that it was a work of fiction. But if you missed this monologue, you might have missed that point.
I was going to say, you could just tune in a little bit too late, or somebody wants to pull your leg and they say,
turn on the radio.
Hey, Bill, you know what? Go turn on that
Or maybe
channel.
They don't even want to pull your leg and they just want you to hear it too because they can't believe their ears.
There are plenty of ways to turn this on and go, is this actually happening? What's happening?
And that was made more intense because after this monologue, the program took on the format of a very typical evening of music and radio programming, which was then periodically interrupted by news bulletins.
Wow.
So I think they cut to like a ballroom where an orchestra was performing and they were hearing like a jazz band perform. And then they cut out of that and then they were hearing a breaking news bulletin. And I suppose, like we were saying, if you were a fan of the Mercury Theater Company, if you knew what time their program aired or if you recognized some of these these performers or their voices, you might have been able to reason through what was happening in real time, even without the benefit of that monologue.
Sure.
But not all listeners were so lucky or so informed.
Wow.
The first few interruptions held relatively calm reports of unusual explosions on Mars. There was an interview that was arranged with a reporter named Carl Phillips and a Princeton-based astronomy professor, Richard Pearson, who was played by Orson Welles, who dismisses speculation about life on Mars. And then a seemingly unrelated report of an unknown object falling on a farm in Grover's Mill, New Jersey. Then they're back and forth. They're listening to music.
It's a normal evening.
Having a laugh. It's a normal radio
out.
Evening.
What a gas.
But the crisis escalates dramatically when an on-scene reporter at Grover's Mill describes creatures emerging from what is evidently an alien spacecraft. The aliens employ a heat ray against police and onlookers, and the radio correspondent describes the attack in increasing panic until his audio feed abruptly goes dead. So the brilliance really is in the build-up.
You know, you can't underplay foreplay.
After a moment of dead air, an announcer explains that the remote broadcast was interrupted due to some difficulty with their field transmission. Then, again interspersed with a piano interlude, regular programming breaks down as the studio struggles to provide casualty and firefighting updates.
That's so genius.
Welles wanted the music to play for unbearably long stretches. The studio's emergency fill-in was a solo piano playing Debussy and Chopin.
Oh, I love Debussy.
And this was heard several times. As it played on and on, Houseman later wrote, its effect became increasingly sinister. A thin band of suspense stretched almost beyond endurance. That piano was the neatest trick of the show.
How long was this program?
Not even 40 minutes.
Holy shit. It feels like it's going to be like a 3-hour long thing.
Right?
I can't fathom cramming so much into 40 minutes.
And they were just getting started. As the broadcast continues, a shaken Pearson speculates about Martian technology. The New Jersey State Militia declares martial law and attacks the cylinder. A captain from their field headquarters lectures about the overwhelming force of properly equipped infantry and the helplessness of the Martians, until a tripod rises from the pit, which obliterates the militia.
Oh no.
The studio returns and describes the Martians as an invading army. Emergency response bulletins give way to damage and evacuation reports as thousands of refugees clog the highways. And this all continues in rather specific detail about these altercations with Martian life.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
In Houseman's account,
Oh,
he said he noticed an executive step out of the studio to take a telephone call in the control room. He said the executive returned 4 minutes later looking pale as death, as he had been ordered to immediately interrupt the War of the Worlds broadcast with an announcement of the program's fictional content. But by the time this order was given, the fictional news reporter, played by Ray Collins, was choking on poison gas as the Martians overwhelmed New York, and the program was less than a minute away from its first scheduled break, which just proceeded as previously planned.
So great.
I believe in total there were 4 breaks throughout the program, letting people know that it was a work of fiction.
You know, some people were like, well, they got to cut to commercial. These are built in.
Right.
But this is really happening.
Eventually, in character, a news reporter transmitting from atop the broadcasting building, he says, describes the Martian invasion of New York City as 5 great machines wading the Hudson, like men wading through a brook, black smoke drifting over the city, people diving into the East River like rats, and others in Times Square falling like flies. He reads a final bulletin stating that Martian cylinders have fallen all over the country, then describes the smoke approaching his location until he coughs and apparently collapses, leaving only the sounds of the panicked city in the background. A ham radio operator is heard calling, "Isn't there anyone on the air? Isn't there anyone on the air? Isn't there anyone?" After a few seconds of silence, announcer Dan Seymour breaks in with a standard programming statement. You are listening to a CBS presentation of Orson Welles' The Mercury Theater on the Air in an original dramatization of The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. The performance will continue after a brief intermission. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
So they kept letting you know.
They did. After this break, the remainder of the program was performed in a way more conventional radio drama format with dialogue and monologue. It focused on Professor Pearson, who survived the attack on Grover's Mill and attempted to make contact with other humans. Then once more, after the full conclusion of the play, Wells resumed his role as host and explained that the broadcast was intended as a holiday offering, the equivalent of the Mercury Theater dressing up in a sheet, jumping out of a bush, and saying, "Boo."
Boo.
While we have annihilated the world and utterly destroyed CBS before your very ears, he continued, you will be relieved to hear that both institutions are still open for business. He ended the program by assuring listeners that if your doorbell rings and there's nobody there, that was no Martian. It's Halloween.
To go so hard and then just to like walk it back like a million steps.
He had to.
He
had to walk it back. That was all planned, of course. He had planned to say those remarks. There were planned breaks.
Yeah.
But if you've heard anything about this broadcast before, Darklings, and if the Hey Arnold episode that brings us together tonight is any indication, this wasn't enough to placate some members of the too trusting public. And although, again, the true degree of hysteria is debated, the accounts from the studio are absolutely wild in and of themselves.
Actor Stefan Schnabel recalled sitting in a waiting room after finishing his on-air performance. A few policemen trickled in, then a few more. Soon, the room was full of policemen and a massive struggle was going on between the police, page boys, and CBS executives who were trying to prevent the cops from busting in and stopping the show. It was a show to witness.
I'm pulling a lot of this from different articles in Wikipedia, and some of these are eyewitness accounts from the studio, so you can only assume they were true. But as you get more into the history of the night and try to break down what happened, it's unclear exactly where these lines were drawn. It was said in one article that during the sign-off theme, the phone began ringing. Houseman picked it up, and the furious caller announced he was a mayor of a Midwestern town where mobs were in the streets, and Houseman hung up quickly. He said, for we were off the air now, and the studio door had burst open.
Damn.
Houseman is said to have described the following hours as a nightmare. The building was suddenly full of people in dark blue uniforms. Hustled out of the studio, we were locked into a small back office on another floor, and here we sat, incommunicado, while network employees were busily collecting, destroying, or locking up all scripts and records of this broadcast. I don't know how true that could be, because we have record of it today.
Yeah.
Finally, he said, the press was let loose upon us, ravening for horror. How many deaths had we heard of? Implying that they knew of thousands. What do we know of the fatal stampede in a Jersey Hall? Implying that it was one of many. What of the traffic deaths? The ditches must be choked with corpses. The suicides. Haven't you heard about the one on Riverside Drive? He said, it's all quite vague in my memory and quite terrible. And there was little, if any, truth to this press tirade, but that wouldn't become clear to everyone until days later, really.
Paul White, head of CBS News, was quickly summoned to the office, and there bedlam reigned. He wrote, the telephone switchboard, a vast sea of light, could handle only a fraction of incoming calls. The haggard Wells sat alone and despondent. I'm through, he lamented, washed up. I didn't bother to reply to this highly inaccurate self-appraisal. I was too busy writing explanations to put on the air, reassuring the audience that it was safe. I also answered my share of incessant telephone calls, many of them from as far away as the Pacific Coast.
Because of the crowd of newspaper reporters and photographers and police, the cast left the CBS building by the rear entrance. And aware of the sensation that the broadcast had made, but not its extent, and with little to do about it, Wells went to the Mercury Theater, where an all-night rehearsal of their stage play Danton's Death was in progress. But shortly after midnight, one of the cast, a late arrival, told Wells that the news about the War of the Worlds was being flashed in Times Square. They immediately left the theater, and standing on the corner of Broadway and 42nd Street, they read the lighted bulletin that circled the New York Times building. Orson Welles causes panic. At this point, he was operating on 3 hours of sleep when CBS called him to a press conference, and he read a statement that was later printed in newspapers. And by the way, the newspapers were hellbent on maximizing the damage they could do to the reputation of the new radio medium, and are likely the reason that history remembers such an uproar in the first place.
That's crazy. Mm-hmm. They were trying to destroy it.
They wanted it to have been this big to-do. The newspapers wanted to sensationalize this horrible radio tragedy, radio drama tragedy. So that's part of the reason why we had all these headlines and all this history, and why people probably that had not heard the broadcast, that knew nothing about it, saw the headlines.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it kind of distorts public perception and memory.
Ironic, because, Citizen Kane was all about printing newspapers.
Yeah. Print journalism.
Printing the news.
Print journalism is very important, but in this case, it was kind of a newspaper versus radio sort of thing. And then, video killed the radio star. So on and so forth.
Sure.
But at this conference, Wells took questions from reporters. One question was, were you aware of the terror of such a broadcast? And Wells said, definitely not. The technique I used was not original with me. It was not even new, and I anticipated nothing unusual.
I just really wanted it to seem real and terrifying. But I had no idea it would actually be that way.
They asked, should you have toned down the language of the drama? And Wells said, Well, no, you don't play murder in soft words.
Hey, that's smart. That's very smart.
They asked, why was the story changed to put in the names of American cities and government officers? And Wells said, H.G. Wells used real cities in Europe, and to make the play more acceptable to American listeners, we used real cities in America. Of course, I'm terribly sorry now. Different articles both downplayed and speculated on Orson's mental state at this point, because some sources said he was eating this up. He loved every minute of it, and this was exactly what he had hoped for and anticipated.
Sure.
While others believe that he was genuinely, remorseful for having.
He was
this.
an actor, for God's sake. Like, the
He
guy
was an
knew how to
actor,
play remorse.
and that's what a whole lot of sources say.
Secretly he was relishing this moment.
Yeah, people
in history.
believed me. People
He was
believed
like,
this.
I actually did the thing I wanted to do. It's scary. This is a lot. I'm tired.
And to be fair, he had done the right thing. There were all these disclaimers. There were all these moments. It wasn't necessarily done, in my opinion. This is my opinion. It wasn't necessarily done in an irresponsible way.
No, I don't think so.
And like he
I
said,
think
this wasn't an original concept to him. It had been done before in 1926 with that, London broadcast, and that's where he got the idea. In fact, there were several similar types of broadcast. This was not like his idea necessarily. He just got famous for it.
Where's the line you have to draw when you're trying to create a piece of fiction that could make history if it's sensational enough, if it's crazy enough, people believe it? I mean, hoaxes and pranks and everything, it depends on...
it is a Halloween prank to an extent. The other thing that
makes
me believe this wasn't nefarious at all. And the other thing that makes me believe that his intentions were good and it's simply being creative is that half of the 40-minute program was in a typical radio drama fashion.
Right. I mean, and they did say this is a work of fiction.
All dialed back and dialed down, and then they said it over and over and over.
If you're a tourist and you're walking through a city park and there's a man who looks like a statue because he's not moving, but he's in a really fun pose, and you walk by him and he moves and scares you, can you sue that performer because you thought they were a statue and they were pretending to be a statue, but they actually are not a statue? They're a human being.
No, you can't.
It's an expression of art.
It gets really murky. It just does, because they had all of this chaos, they had all these phone calls, they had all these questions, but at the core of it, it seems like those phone calls and those questions were really the only panic or the primary panic. It wasn't so much that there were all of these, mobs and people fleeing their houses and things. I think the most people really did when they, quoting, panicked was call the station or call law enforcement to say, hey, is this happening?
Right, yeah.
It was more reasonable. They were just trying to check their facts. They weren't necessarily believing it. They were just making sure.
Hey, my kids won't go to sleep. Can you please just tell them that
can you just tell them that it's a hoax?
Radio program? I'm really tired. I have work in the morning. In 2003, an American university media historian named W. Joseph Campbell said, "The panic and mass hysteria so readily associated with the War of the Worlds did not occur on anything approaching a nationwide dimension." Campbell quoted Robert E. Bartholomew, an authority on mass panic outbreaks, as having said that there was a growing consensus among sociologists that the extent of the panic was greatly exaggerated.
In the first place, most people didn't hear the show, said Frank Stanton, later president of CBS. It was far from the most popular program, and though there was and is a myth that circulated that a larger audience was reached due to an interlude in the top-performing show of the time coinciding with the broadcast's most dramatic moments, that's also been pretty much dispelled.
Wow, okay.
Of the nearly 2,000 letters mailed to Wells and the Federal Communications Commission after the War of the Worlds, roughly 27% of those came from frightened listeners or people who witnessed any panic at all. And after analyzing those letters, it was concluded that although the broadcast did briefly mislead a significant portion of its audience, not many of them fled their homes or otherwise reacted, like I was saying. There was, however, a significant uptick in calls to media outlets and first responders attempting to confirm the validity of the broadcast, which indicates not panic, but reason, as I said before. And of the people who did panic, in air quotes, a study by the Radio Project discovered that less than 1/3 of panicked listeners understood the invaders to be aliens. Most thought that they were listening to reports of a German invasion or of a natural catastrophe.
Wells' biographer Frank Brady wrote, "People were on edge. For the entire month prior to the War of the Worlds, radio had kept the American public alert to the ominous happenings throughout the world. The Munich crisis was at its height. For the first time in history, the public could tune into their radios every night and hear, boot by boot, accusation by accusation, threat by threat, the rumblings that seemed inevitably leading to a world war.
And we, here in 2025, know nothing about how that feels, do we?
No, we are so far from World War III, it's not even going to happen in our lifetimes.
We don't know anything about what it's like to be able to turn on any media outlet, even the one we hold in our hand, and see threats, accusations, and rumblings 24/7.
It's all a bunch of hullabaloo.
But it just goes to show that, as always, and we say it almost every episode, that we humans and our insistence upon conquering and conflict are the scariest of the monsters. At least the ones we know about so far.
I want to know more about that small town that had riots in the streets. That mayor that called in or something?
Yeah, I had no further details, and I just wonder if that's real or...
What's the story there? I want to read that short story. I want someone to write that short story about that panic caused by the radio program and what led, what chaos ensued in that small town.
There are stories of Grover's Mill, New Jersey getting way more popular, of people visiting after this happened.
I'm sure.
Our actual broadcasting time from the first mention of the meteorites to the fall of New York City was less than 40 minutes, wrote Houseman. During that time, men traveled long distances, large bodies of troops were mobilized, cabinet meetings were held, savage battles fought on land and in air, and people accepted it, emotionally, if not logically. And they were supposed to, because it was a work of fiction, like a movie. But this contrast of emotion and logic is a hallmark of what you and I love about fiction in general. And I can imagine Mr. Craig Bartlett and his own merry band of creatives felt the same way, making this story the ideal story for a Hillwood happening.
Hillwood happenstance.
So now, let's get down to the Hey Arnold of it all, shall we?
Let's go say hey to that Arnold.
The episode opens with some perfectly ethereal, sparkly, gem-laying Halloween music to complement a perfectly eerie October evening at Arnold's house, the Sunset Arms.
Goddamn gem-laying. I love the magical leaves.
Yeah,
blowing.
That little wind chime sound in the background.
Little garnish.
Arnold and Gerald are gathered around the tube TV watching the Z-Files, not to be confused with the X-Files, with Grandpa and the Borders.
What a cozy night, though. God, I'm so jealous.
Their Z-Files episode leaves off on a cliffhanger as Oscar bemoans the terrible writing mid-ice cream binge on the couch.
Yeah, he's one to talk.
He's always one to talk, and he's always talking. Always.
Never shuts up, this guy.
But luckily, up next is a tasteful, well-researched program, UFO Tonight, starring Douglas Kane.
Citizen Kane.
It's like an Orson Welles production meets The Twilight Zone.
Dude.
And that crossover did actually happen IRL once, by the way.
What are you talking about?
The Twilight Zone adapted The Hitchhiker, for which Orson Welles had starred in several radio productions.
Oh, they didn't actually work together. It was just a connection.
No.
Just like, okay.
No, but Orson Welles did meet H.G. Wells. It was a whole thing also.
Lucky bastard.
Yeah. Time is weird.
Isn't it though?
So weird.
Yeah,
UFOs, flying saucers. They loom large in the imagination.
But indeed, do they exist? We now know that this Earth is watched closely by intelligences greater than man's. We have scrutinized and studied this small, spinning fragment of solar driftwood. As your host and
there it is.
Reporter.
And this should sound a whole lot more familiar to all of you now.
That line stood out to me too. I had no idea that was a Wells
Me
line.
too. I knew. I clocked it.
God, if only I'd read War of the Worlds.
Kane emphasizes, in a way that somehow only harms his credibility, that as host, reporter, writer, and producer, he'll be the audience's guide on their quest to make contact on
UFO Tonight.
Is this our podcast?
Yeah,
this
I know.
Is just us. Writer, host, producer, executive producer.
And it doesn't come off great when people say all that stuff in sequence.
No, it really doesn't.
Kane is voiced by Maurice LaMarche, who has nearly 500 voice acting credits to his name beginning in the 80s. And we've talked about him before because one of his credits includes none other than Big Bob Pataki.
Oh, no way.
Same guy.
Is that why they made him such a big part of the story?
Yeah, I guess so.
That's why he loved him. He got to play two different characters where one's obsessed with the other one.
Yeah, isn't that great?
God, I love these voice actors. They're so versatile. I wish I had that talent.
Maurice LaMarche is quite the name also.
Yeah, seriously.
Grandpa switches off the TV, muttering something like, "Enough of this boob tube," and I don't think that means what he thinks it means, before announcing that it's time to meet about the annual boarding house Halloween party.
Hey, Grandpa, can Gerald and I help out this year?
Oh, no, Arnold. Halloween is a serious business, and it's not for kids. No, Arnold. The purpose of Halloween is to scare the living daylights out of everyone until they scream bloody murder and beg for mercy.
As we can all agree, here on That's Pretty Dark.
Amen.
And the boarders not along in agreement. As they leave, Gerald asks Arnold if they'll stick to their usual Halloween plan. But Arnold says the grown-ups could use a good scare this year, and it'll involve aliens. Over at Helga's, Big Bob is captivated by UFO Tonight, holding up his poker game with Harvey, the neighborhood mailman, and Marty, the butcher.
Perhaps across an immense ethereal gulf, intellects vast, cool, and unsympathetic, regard this earth with envious eyes.
It's so brilliant.
It's good prose. It's just so good. I loved it. I loved this moment. I loved it as a kid. I loved it now. And apparently what we loved is from 1895.
Wells was a master. Seriously, if you read his works, it feels very contemporary. Mm-hmm. There's something about his writing that doesn't feel like it's over 100 years old.
Yeah.
150 years old.
To have a voice like that.
It has a truthful resonance to it that
a truth
lingers,
Absolutely. Helga's parental neglect is also on full display. Bob dismisses her out of hand, calling her Olga, as usual. And she actually gets upset. She doesn't always comment on it, but this time she's really frustrated, and I don't blame her.
Yeah, they got to play it up for that conclusion,
Every week is another close encounter, says Marty, and Harvey agrees that it's all a fake. But Big Bob thinks it's true.
That King guy's an expert. He knows what he's talking about.
And in fact, Big Bob had his very own close encounter. From somewhere off screen, Miriam drones, "Oh, Bob, please don't start." And you can hear on top of her line the ice, swishing around in her glass,
knocking back another.
It was so
another mixed beverage,
masterfully designed into the fabric of this family in this show. Like her constant drinking, it's just constant. It's all the time.
I mean, when you're married to Big Bob,
I know.
How do you not drink yourself numb every single evening?
Woof. As Helga mouths the words behind him, indicating she's heard this many times before, Big Bob begins to recount that nearly 20 years ago, he was driving a pickup full of cut-rate Canadian transistors across North Dakota. And why does this all just make so much sense for his character?
It really does.
It's in the pocket. This writing.
Wasn't his animation the same age he is now? He didn't look...
He looked a little younger, but,
Less married.
Yeah, maybe less married.
All of a sudden, the radio starts acting funny. The grass all around me's blowing flat, and there's this weird light coming from all directions. Next thing I know, I'm wandering around in the parking lot of the Royal Fork Smorgasbord.
Fun words altogether. We've mentioned encounters such as these on the show before, and I'm certain this won't be our last opportunity to get all UFO, so I didn't dig too much into just the history of this type of encounter, the tractor beams, etc.
Yeah.
But it was a tempting rabbit trail. I figured you guys had had enough of the history tonight.
There's no shortage of close encounters.
Yeah, we could read dozens.
And more every day with all the UFO happenings lately. Mm-hmm. A surprising amount.
Or unsurprising. On UFO Tonight.
Very interesting.
Harvey asks if anyone else saw the flying saucer, and he and Marty side-eye when Bob says he was the only witness.
You don't believe me, do you? Mark my words, flying saucers do exist. And we're gonna see aliens someday, and they're gonna look exactly like that.
And he points to the alien on the TV screen.
And we're gonna look exactly like this.
Cut to the kids meeting in a back lot where Helga has drawn her own crude version of the creature. The kids begin to pitch other ideas, but Helga says that they're all going as aliens because the whole purpose of Halloween is to scare people and make them give you candy.
And all the devil's children said, Amen.
And I like how both she and Arnold essentially had the same idea from the same sort of source. They both saw these programs on TV and had these interactions with their caregivers, and they're like, you know what? This is the thing to do.
Influential media.
Yeah. And they were always so connected, these two.
Oh, that's true. They were.
I love them so much.
So sweet.
She starts delegating tasks, silver fabric, foil, and face paint. And they invite Arnold and Gerald, who are nearby unraveling a very conspicuous spool of wire, to join their group costume. Arnold declines, but says they should all come to his house as aliens because they're having a party. They'll be our alien invasion. It's perfect.
If we time this right, we'll scare Grandpa and the boarders right out of their minds.
To drive home the point, Helga menacingly dons a prototype costume, balancing a pot atop her head and shrugging a cloak around her shoulders. Notably, though, the aliens in the original War of the Worlds novel are even more octopus-like than this, possibly said to be descendants of a species similar to human beings that evolution had reduced to only a large brain and head and 2 groupings of 8 tentacles or hands.
That's interesting because, like, if humans just like go extinct,
yeah, they could take over.
These tentacled sea creatures that are probably going to be the next civilization.
That branch of evolution just had something going for it, clearly. In the novel, it's said that several Martians attempt to like stand on their tentacles, implying that they're capable of locomotion in this manner while in Mars' lighter gravity, but not on Earth.
Okay.
So,
I see.
Kind of icky.
A little bit.
And now, it's Halloween night. The moonlit streets of Hillwood echo with shrieks and laughter and taunting trick-or-treat cries. Miriam slurs, passing out candy to some kids on her stoop, and Helga descends the stairs in full getup. And I'm not sure who they recruited to do their makeup, but they did a great job.
Pretty damn good. But where's all the foil?
Where is all the foil? Helga approaches her father, asking what he thinks of her costume, but again, total neglect. He never really looks up, and he barely patronizes her as he's absorbed in his paper. He's trying to calculate how much he lost betting on football the day before.
How could Green Bay win again?
Another touching father-daughter moment. If anyone needs me, I'll be out soaping windows.
I loved that. I was like,
I love soaping
what a
windows
good
too.
Halloween prank.
Yeah. Did you know about it before she said it, or did we talk about it in our Halloween history and I've forgotten?
I think it's
maybe?
Either it came up or I just kind of like knew that was a thing people did. It's one of those things.
It was a very popular Halloween or mischief night sort of prank in like the early to mid 20th century.
Yeah.
It's like tagging, but less destructive. You just grab a bar of soap and you write or draw on house or car windows. And then a step up from this was like waxing windows, like putting wax on them, which that would be a nightmare to clean up.
Much more destructive.
Much more so than soap.
Oh, brutal albumin.
Regardless, this is such a perfect sardonic Helga line because she's always old-fashioned and beyond her years, maybe even especially in her mocking. Whenever she defaults to that like defensive, sardonic place, she's always like 40 years older than she actually is.
I mean, she's a poet at heart.
About now, a group of trick-or-treaters approach the boarding house, but Grandpa scares them away with a bowl of live worms and cockroaches.
Happy Halloween!
Satisfied, he returns to the party, which is in full swing. Ernie and Mr. Wynn argue, both dressed as Frankenstein. Gerald's dad is dressed as an off-brand Fred Flintstone, and his mom a version of Elvira, neither looking particularly pleased to be in attendance.
It was so funny to me that they were both Frankenstein's monster because, like, you know, they're such different body types.
Quite different. Ernie's even standing on a jack-o'-lantern, like, just to get in Mr. Wynn's face.
Dueling Frankenstein's monsters.
Grandma roams around the party, a witch playing bagpipes. Makes sense. While other partygoers bob for apples. In the background of this scene, I see a budget Elvis, a samurai, Einstein, Amelia Earhart, a mob boss. Oscar is dressed as a vampire, and Susie dressed as a nurse, perhaps just wearing her work uniform, because that would totally track for the character, because she didn't have time for her own costume, because she was too busy sewing Oscar's. Trails behind him.
And he's complaining about his cape.
Susie, what did you do with my cape?
I think it looks great, Oscar. I have 16 holes in my fingers. I don't know what more you want of me.
Let's say it together. Dump him.
Leave him.
You thought I was going to say pretty dark, didn't you?
Leave him.
Leave.
You keep the money. Oh, Oscar.
But it's in there because it's real.
That's the truth, if I've ever heard it.
Well, Arnold, it's showtime. It's 7:49.
We zoom in on the jukebox behind them, complete with visible radio dial, and follow some shoddy wiring through the mouth of another jack-o'-lantern, out the window, and up to the roof, where Arnold and Gerald are hard at work. They've rigged up a bunch of radio equipment and transistors and an old phonograph. No problemo.
These are the most resourceful fourth graders that have ever existed.
They truly are.
They were an inspiration.
I wanted to be them, for sure.
I always told myself, you gotta be more like Arnold. Couldn't do it.
I love the idea of a drive time DJ. I wanted to be a DJ. I had one of those Do you remember the Wild Planet brand of toys, like the spy toys?
I don't know, maybe.
It was incredible. I loved that toy. You could do almost this exact thing. You could like intercept like close range AM frequencies and you could broadcast and like hear yourself on the radio.
Yeah.
So I would be in my bedroom and I would put it together and I would do it. And then I would do radio shows for like my parents or my sister in the other room. And we would even hook up our Walkman or like our portable CD players sometimes. And we would put like the headphone of the CD player or the Walkman up to the speaker so that we could play music on the radio, which is
yeah.
Shouldn't have probably been doing that.
Hey, well, I know. You're innocent.
God, I loved that thing.
That's fun.
And honestly, it's possible that toy is what prompted my dad to share the story of the War of the Worlds with me in the first place.
It always makes me think of the night me and my friend Zach hung out and we recorded our own radio program and played our own music on like into the microphone and recorded it on this tape.
Mm-hmm.
And then to our horror the next day, my sister and her friend found the tape.
Of course.
And they were listening to it to
Yep.
the whatever hour-long program we created, and Zach cried. He was so embarrassed. He was so embarrassed.
Oh my God.
Like broke him.
See, we passed it out to people. We taped ourselves singing and passed it out to people.
We had fun doing it. I don't know. He was very
It's funny.
sensitive. It makes me laugh every time.
I took a radio production class in college and I put together like for my, had to do like a midterm that was 30 minutes and a final that was an hour. It was so fun. I loved that stuff.
That would be cool.
And now here we are.
Little tiny play pretend radio hosts. Look at us. That's all make believe.
It's all I've ever wanted to be. It's all I've ever needed to be. But some of you guys are out there still, right, Darklings? You hear us talking into this void on our microphones.
4 years later.
Arnold tells Gerald that they're right on time. It's 7:49 and Helga and the other kids will be there at 8. And why include the exact time if not to reference or pay homage to the original broadcast?
You know what time it is right now?
7:51.
It was 7:50 when you said that. And if I
Whoa.
hadn't interrupted you a second before
I would have said it's 7:49 at 7:49.
At the exact moment it was 7:49.
God damn it. We're so close. Serendipity.
If I hadn't been so self-absorbed, we could have made history just now.
But remember, the original War of the Worlds broadcast happened at 8 p.m., so it seemed like another little nod to me.
That's fun.
They spot the kids a few houses over, and Arnold confirms, it's time for an alien attack. They lift the needle on the jazz record that's spinning, and into the phonograph cylinder, Gerald, in his old-timey voice, exclaims,
We interrupt this broadcast to bring to you a special bulletin. A large saucer-like craft of unknown origin is reported to have landed on the outskirts of...
Inside the house, Grandpa shushes his guests and turns up the volume on the jukebox, where we hear a distorted Gerald continue. I repeat, there's reports of an alien spacecraft landing on the outskirts of the city. I'm at the scene where a small crowd is gathered in front of the scorched area where the saucer-like craft has landed. Wait, the top of the craft seems to be opening, unscrewing like a huge lid. Now it's opening and some thing is coming out. That unscrewing word stuck with me because that was very similar to what was said in the War of the Worlds broadcast as well. Arnold, on his own mics, and surely again in homage to Mr. Wells, uses an oxygen tank, a bowl of pasta, bags of flour, and a punching bag to add live Foley and sound effects.
Now it's opening.
Oh my, several of them, silver with huge bulbous heads. I can hardly bear to look at them. They're so revolting. Ernie is skeptical as the guests listen.
Huge bulbous heads. I can hardly bear to look at them. They're so revolting.
This is a joke, right?
Little do our friends know that Smitty, Douglas Kane's UFO hunting assistant, is simultaneously parked on the outskirts of town in a satellite broadcast van with capabilities of its own. He's asking his boss if he can come back to the station, knowing he won't find anything.
Oh, you cannot come back to the station. It's All Hallows Eve, the perfect night for aliens to try and infiltrate our planet disguised as humans.
I sent you out to look for signs of paranormal alien activity, and that's what you will continue to do until your shift ends at 10 o'clock. Over and out.
What an asshole.
Alien capitalism.
I guess so.
We're locked in to this shift, and you're going to be out there doing this for me, because we got to be on watch for Halloween.
Make sure we catch those aliens.
I don't personally associate Halloween too much with aliens and extraterrestrials. I feel like they're more of a year-round sort of paranormal phenomenon.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I agree.
I appreciate that for Wells, it was a Halloween activity, so Arnold did the same.
I mean, it's spooky. I like seeing aliens on Halloween. I think it's fun.
Yeah.
I don't think they're not Halloween-ish.
No, not at all. I don't think that they're not Halloween. I just think that they're more perennial, you know?
We just know that Halloween has more to do with the living and the dead.
Right.
And things that, toe the line between living and the dead. It's not necessarily extraterrestrials.
Right.
But they are creepy, and I do like to see aliens on Halloween. I think it's fun, especially if you're glowing, fun colors.
It's a great vibe.
It's a good vibe.
Smitty is frustrated, but as he drives toward town, he picks up more than anyone bargained for, Arnold and Gerald's prank broadcast.
That made me laugh.
I can't believe this. Like I'm really gonna find aliens on Halloween night.
Total of 8 aliens have climbed out of the spacecraft. This one is more hideous in appearance.
Holy cow!
Gerald continues to escalate things, shouting that they're proceeding to the east side, headed down Vine Street, and sure enough, they pass right in front of Smitty's route just as he's hearing this, and he calls Douglas Kane immediately.
Nightmare on Vine Street.
In the meantime, Grandpa's attempting to rein in his party, explaining that they know there's no such thing as aliens and this is no time to panic. The doorbell rings, though, and panic.
It's just a door, you ninny.
He answers, and as Alien Helga, Phoebe, and the gang shout trick or treat, Grandpa's bravado vanishes.
Aliens, they're here.
One side, Garamps.
Ernie meets them, of course, and the kids turn tail to avoid him, and they bulldoze Smitty with his news camera in the process.
But he gets the shot.
The way out of context POV shot shows the kids, coated in silver and with bulging heads and veins, screaming and running from an eerie glow of the boarding house door. Back at the station, with only this information to go on, the feed cuts.
I've lost the picture. I'm surrounded by incompetence.
And I swear there is
classic
some
villain.
version of that line in near about everything.
Everything. We've covered it. You've talked about it in
we've
detail
said it before.
one time.
Surrounded by idiots. It's in The Lion King.
And it's something that Helga says quite a bit
Often.
too.
She
which
says it again tonight.
She does. She says, I'm surrounded.
She just stopped short because we already heard it once. By now, Big Bob is settled in his armchair, and a listless Miriam is playing solitaire behind him.
Because she's solitary.
Because she's solitary. Yes, she is alone.
Completely alone in this house. This poor woman.
And what interrupts their Wheel of Fortune evening but a breaking news broadcast? Douglas Kane has forcibly overtaken the local news desk. We can hear the tussle. And with a now credible lower third on the screen, he breaks the story.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have grave news. Radio transmissions were picked up tonight in the East Side neighborhood below Wells Ridge, reporting that aliens have landed.
I knew it.
Wells Ridge.
Orson Welles Ridge, you might say. Maybe even HG.
Wells, you don't say.
Before we lost contact with our reporter at the scene, we received this video fragment. And I think the meaning of this footage is self-evident. Aliens have indeed landed among us. They intend to take no prisoners, and their ultimate goal is to enslave the human race. What a leap you're making, Douglas.
Talk about some hyperbole, my God.
What a leap. But it's interesting and it's funny and
sensational.
It's sensational, and it really rings reminiscent of Bigfoot sightings and other UFO and alien encounters where you've got this definitive proof, you've got this video evidence of the thing, and it's this blurry, weird, distorted, contorted happening on screen, and they're like, see, it's proof.
Same with UFO footage,
Really played to the trope.
UAP footage, my bad. Unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Aerial
That's the
phenomenon.
new UFO.
And that brings us to a pretty dark PSA.
Oh.
Don't believe everything you see or hear or read, kids.
Or feel or smell.
Comprehension
or taste.
and media literacy are everything. And oddly enough, this concept might have even more application resonance now than it did in the 30s or even the 90s.
That's true.
Because with modern technology, social media, and a shifting view of what counts when it comes to credentials, anyone can now look and appear credible when woefully few sources actually are.
Damn straight.
This is a theme that we see all the time. And we were even talking about it earlier tonight in terms of, you're hearing this on the radio, so it's got to be real, it's got to be credible. Like, understanding and knowing how to verify information, which thankfully a lot of people in the 30s did because they were calling the sources to confirm rather than taking it at face value. Nowadays, it's harder to do that. It can be harder to verify and fact check, harder and easier, because you can type it right in, but there are going to be a whole bunch of misleading articles that you have to understand how to parse through that come back at you.
There are just more words and more.
There's more information.
There's more information. There's more sources of information spouting whatever nonsense they believe to be true. So truth is no longer an objective entity.
Yeah.
There is no capital T truth anymore.
If you haven't seen it, I'm sure most of you have by now because it's quite old at this point, but The Social Dilemma is a great documentary that kind of goes in depth on the algorithm, what it does to our brains, how it determines what's real and what isn't. It's a huge debate all the time now on all sides of the aisle and political spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
What do you trust, how, and where, and why? And I think really the only way that we as a society can recover from this at all is by teaching our children media literacy, teaching them to recognize what information is coming from what source, how to find the source of the information, and how to determine whether or not that source is credible.
Cui bono.
Mm-hmm.
Look at who benefits from
this,
the bullshit being
mm-hmm.
spouted,
from,
who's saying
from the
it.
click, who wants you to click on it and why.
Who, why? These are the questions you have to ask to understand.
And oftentimes, yeah, if you trace that back, if you follow the money,
show me the
to
money.
say so, that's where you land is, okay, this can't be real, but I know exactly who would want me to think that it is.
Yeah, you might not find the actual truth behind the situation, but you at least know the thing that you heard itself, that thing can't be true.
Mm-hmm. This is not sponsored, but I personally love Ground News, which is they have like an Instagram, but they're an actual organization. They distribute like a newsletter and everything, and they show you on each story the percentage on either side of the political scale and who is reporting on it and how. They'll even have side-by-sides of headlines. They'll have like a center headline, a right and a left, so you can see how one story is being spun on multiple layers and levels.
That's smart, yeah.
Yeah, it's really great. And that's also a really good tool, especially if, I don't know, if you're younger, if you have kids or nieces, nephews, young people in your life who are reliant on ChatGPT, who aren't maybe as media literate or they've not grown up needing to be or understanding it yet. Something like that, to me, is a really good tool because it shows you literally side by side the vast difference that can be in one story. And the reporting of it and the framing of it and the phrasing, even the words that are used, the vocabulary. And unfortunately, in today's climate, a lot of that vocabulary is vitriolic and hateful, and it incites certain feelings. It wants to incite certain feelings.
Yeah, there's always an agenda.
Right.
And I can tell you, the truth is never going to be in a long-winded YouTube video. So if you find yourself in a YouTube rabbit hole watching people talk about the thing that confirms your own bias and you're like, this is true, this has got to be true. Yeah, if it's already what you believe and you're watching it on a YouTube video, it's almost guaranteed proof that it's not true.
And the Darkling listening to our YouTube feed on this podcast is like,
we're not making YouTube videos about conspiracy theories.
Conspiracy theories and not current events in that way.
Definitely not.
What we're saying is you can trust us.
I'm not. Don't trust me with anything.
Sometimes.
I don't deserve your trust.
We try to cite our sources.
I'm receiving a radio transmission from the scene. An unknown source.
I see it. Huge. Like nothing I've ever seen. The mothership.
We watch Douglas Kane's Fake News, and I hate what that now evokes in a landscape where even our leadership loves to blur the lines of media reality.
Fake news
takes the city by storm as Kane's broadcast amplifies Gerald's, which is still ongoing. Harvey watches Wrapped from his own living room. A crowd gathers to watch through the window of an electronics shop. And this is something that you don't see much of in real life these days, but I swear every fictional town worth its salt had a window display with a bunch of TV models in it. Jumanji.
God, I wish that was still a thing.
Me too.
Small town America is dying off and
commoditized, corporatized.
Yeah.
Eaten. Principal Wart's baking cookies in his kitchen, Marty over his TV dinner. There are no more skeptics, it seems. Everyone is on board now. On the rooftop, unaware of their newfound reach, Arnold cues Stinky via walkie-talkie, who is set up near the water tower.
Come in, Stinky. The eagle has landed.
I don't see no eagle here, Arnold, but I'm gonna go ahead and plug in the mothership.
Stinky, oh my God.
In an impressive feat, Stinky has strung neon red and green lights all around the water tower. But something in the wiring short circuits and feeds back to the nearby power plant, causing a city-wide power outage.
Hey, all them other lights went out. Now ain't that a coinkydink?
Ain't that a coinky-dink?
Now the only light for miles is the glowing orb of the water tower.
Hell of a power trip, let me tell you.
In the darkness, Ernie and Oscar see the mothership out the window and declare the end of the world. Arnold, still blissfully and uncharacteristically, might I add, unaware,
yeah,
shrugs as we hear sirens and city chaos ricochet around them.
Screams.
I wonder if our little radio show scared anybody.
That stood out to me because I was like, you don't hear the chaos?
Arnold always knows. He's always on top of everything. But again, like Orson Welles, This wasn't the intention. He just wanted to scare his grandpa.
Orson Welles just wanted to convince the citizens that this was actually happening and strike fear into the hearts of millions of people.
That's all he wanted. He didn't mean to hurt anybody. At least in Arnold and Gerald's case, they know the limitations of their own ability when it comes to the radio broadcast, and it was only ever meant to reach the Sunset Arms.
Yeah, but he's so modest, though. He would never think that, like, an action he took, like, ricocheted that far. He would never assume that. Mm-mm. But, it was all for his grandfather because he prized pranks on Halloween.
Right.
So he wanted to give them a taste.
He wanted to do it to impress his grandpa.
He wanted to impress him. And also, we couldn't help plan the Halloween party, so we might as well just give him a prank that, knocks their socks off, which, hey, did more than that.
After the commercial break, we watch Grandpa and the Boarders loading up the car with suitcases. He casually regards the duo as they approach.
Now, where have you two been? Can't you see that aliens are attacking and the city's in flames?
Slow down, Grandpa. It was us. We did it to scare you. We did a radio show on the roof. It was us.
This is no time for jokes, boys. Look, there's their mother's ship.
They explain that's the water tower, that Stinky's up there. He lit it with Christmas lights. And Grandpa asks about the creatures at his door, but of course that was Helga and Harold and all the kids in Arnold's class. Grandpa still doesn't believe them, and Gerald uses this stray cheerleader's megaphone to demonstrate.
Go Figs.
Go Figs.
Well, what do you know? That was you. Ooh, very impressive. Hey, what about Douglas Kane flapping his gums about it on TV? How'd you convince him?
Wait a minute.
They realize that the TV station must have picked up their radio show. And right on cue, Helga and the kids round the corner, being torch and pitchforked by an angry costumed mob.
Grandpa, what happened to Helga and the kids after you saw them?
What is it about, like, shows and movies like this that they have this televised horror host that turns out to be local? Like, this guy happens to be local to Hillwood. And then if you watch Fright Night, the old horror film actor who's now hosting the horror anthology on the late night program that they all watch, he happens to be, he like lives a few blocks away.
I guess it's
and they
also
go to his film studio to like accost him and get him to help kill vampires.
Which it doesn't quite track for Hillwood, but like a lot of the things we watch as kids, we automatically assume they're in LA or they're in New York, They're right where the action is.
It is supposed to be a big city. Yeah, I guess that's true.
There is nowhere though.
Yeah,
the Nowhere Newsman. But that is a local news show, I guess.
Yeah, that's just local news. But I mean, maybe our aspirations are too small. Maybe we should be local horror program hosts.
Yeah, maybe
it's like
we
11
should.
o'clock slot.
Hey,
on like weekends.
Get us on there. It won't be live, but get us on there.
No, we'll film during the week. Are you kidding? We need as much studio like fog machines as possible. Graveyards, rusty iron gates. Wolf owls. Full dark shadows.
They hop in the car when a wild grandma appears.
Pookie, what are you doing? It's a bad night to be out. Don't wait up. Crazy old bird.
In full blackout mode, Bob and Miriam are lighting candles, and he's doing everything he can to get a radio signal. Now every station is broadcasting the news, one mentioning that even beepers are jammed.
Beepers are jammed? That tears it. Now it's personal, Miriam.
That's just crazy to me because like beepers, pagers and everything, they were on their own frequency or whatever. They had their own towers.
Yeah, they had their own towers. They weren't connected into
signal.
the phone lines. Yeah.
So many people are sending pages all at once.
Yeah, the system is overwhelmed.
It's clogging.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
That's the joke, though. That's what's funny.
Big Bob's beepers.
It's that widespread. It's that far-reaching that now even beepers are jammed. Man. And Bob is now fully delusional. He's in his own world as if he's having more flashbacks, which is the joke that plays throughout the rest of the episode.
They don't know I've been waiting for, Miriam. Ever since North Dakota. And this time, I'm ready.
Her tired eyes look on as he rummages through the coat closet, putting on some tactical gear, some mighty special beepers, and a helmet.
Yeah.
Bob, please, can't we just enjoy the candlelight?
I feel so bad for
But he's already out the door.
She breaks my heart.
Yeah, Miriam's DTF, and Bob is not.
She's so lonely.
You and me have had this date for a long time, baby.
Says Bob to the Jeep he uncovers.
That's a Hummer.
Yeah, I guess it's a Hummer.
It's a straight up Humvee.
Yeah.
Stay in the house, Miriam, and don't open the door for any blasted aliens.
Meanwhile, the mob has backed the kids into a corner, literally, while Helga pleads for their lives. We're not aliens, we're just a bunch of kids dressed as aliens. And she's trying to rub off her makeup and prove her point. But she can't. And all hope seems lost, but they find a way over the wall, and Harold confesses that he got something called permanent exterior latex, because I figured we'd be outside all night.
Oh, that hurts me so much.
I know.
Hurts me because this would like eat through your skin.
Yeah, it would be so painful. My skin's already reactive to everything. I cannot even imagine permanent exterior latex. It's like, are you putting it on a building? A water tower?
It's literally what you'd put it on, yes.
Oh, criminy. Arnold, Gerald, and Grandpa have taken to the streets, analog style, driving up and down, shouting with their megaphones that it's just a Halloween trick. Why didn't they take a page now out of Orson Welles' book and get back on the radio?
Hey, I don't know.
I guess nobody's really listening to the radio anymore either. You can still listen to some radios when the power's out, so it shouldn't have, I don't know.
I mean, yeah.
I don't know.
They're battery powered.
The signals were jammed, according to Bob, so I guess it wouldn't have been effective either. Bob gets Harvey on the phone as he careens through town, and they decide it's time to kick some alien butt. Chaos continues at the TV station where they're still trying to work to restore power.
Well, I'll get word to the rest of the country and planet Earth as long as I can draw breath.
Yes, sir!
Let's not sit here and wait for the aliens to enslave us. To Wells Ridge!
And he and Smitty head off to Wells Ridge in the satellite truck.
He's so dramatic, this guy.
In life and on screen. Principal Warts is in the street on his knees, rehearsing how he'll surrender to his new alien overlords.
I surrender! Hail, conquering heroes from outer space! Oh yeah, that's good. That's good, very good. Make friends right away, good. Please don't hurt me.
What if they take me hostage? Oh, I'll offer to lead them to the children. That's good. That'll work.
This guy.
Bob and the crew pull up beside him and drag him into the Jeep.
Chocolates, nylons. I don't get it.
In nylons?
Nylons?
Who are these for?
Oh, that to me, just all I could see was Buddy the Elf, like for someone special.
Yeah.
And he buys the lingerie. Yeah.
Ooh, who's that for?
You have a thing for aliens, Principal Warts?
Honestly, it kind of felt like he was like hoping for the full treatment, you know?
Yeah.
Like he was like, I hope they probe me. I've heard stories. I've heard tell. I'll be there.
Bob calls him a little worm and realizes he was going to surrender to the aliens. And now in full army mode, Bob threatens him.
Either you grow a spine pronto and join the fight for the human race, or I'll send you home to Mrs. Warts in a chocolate box.
And of course, then Warts rolls over to the next most threatening thing and says he's with him all the way. Go, humans, go, fight, fight, fight. I'm still not clear on why Principal Warts had to be here, I suppose for comic relief.
I guess so, yeah.
The kids, still on the run, blame Helga for their debacle, insisting they should have dressed as pirates. More like her dad than she realizes, Helga drill sergeants the kids, shouting that the bunch of whiners keep going to the top of the ridge because no one will find them there. Which I find curious because, like, everyone's looking at the mothership now.
The mothership.
Howdy, Helga. You fellers having a fun Halloween?
Stinky intercepts them on the path and, slow as molasses, connects the dots for Helga. Arnold and Gerald's prank is the reason everyone's convinced that they are real aliens. And of course, Helga is livid.
She's
pissed. Arnold! Pierces through the night, and across town, Arnold says he's got a bad feeling about Helga and the other kids.
Did you hear something just now, Gerald?
Telepathic.
I love that 90s trope.
Telepathic.
But that happened in so many things. Somebody would like yell.
It did all the time,
and
yeah.
then cut
you
away to
zoom
the,
out
the
and
next
it's just,
scene.
Yeah.
And they go, did you hear something?
Did you hear something?
That happened a lot.
Big Bob has now reached the mothership, and as they've inexplicably tied up Principal Warts, I guess to keep him from becoming a number for the other side, Bob explains the plan. He's wired up all these beepers to an egg timer, and when he crosses the wire, they'll start a chain reaction that'll blow that mothership back to the Stone Age. And he leaves them to wait for the signal, heading to the top of the ridge himself to keep watch. Where, how, why did he have in his possession exploding beepers? How did he,
Hey, he's Big Bob.
He's Big Bob, and I guess when you're Big Bob, you got enemies, and you want to make sure you're ready for them.
This is a government man.
Nearby, Douglas Kane is back on air via satellite truck.
As the city below lies in darkness and ruin, I am obsessed by the fact that I may be the last living, award-winning reporter on Earth. And as I bring you what may be my final report before the end of the human race, I know that the hilltop is gripped in an eerie quiet.
His characterization Douglas Kane's characterization is so damn good. And he gets all of this across in so few words.
He does, yeah.
Some of them being H.G. Wells' words.
Mm-hmm.
A crowd is gathered in the glow of the film lights, and Arnold runs past Douglas up the hill toward the aliens. Bob ambushes the group as they head for the ladder. And again, I ask, how come you're literally trying to hide not only at the ridge or outside of town, but at the water tower, in the water tower, on the water tower, with the water tower? Like, why are you going to the one place where everybody's looking?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know.
Come on, Helga. You're smarter than that. You're better than this. Bob grabs Helga by the head, shouting that he's captured their repulsive little leader. And when Helga makes herself known, his face contorts in confusion.
You do sound like Helga. Oh, it's happening. My worst fear. The aliens are taking over my mind. You're gonna pay for this.
He had mentioned, the wiping the memory, the mind control. That is a common trope with aliens. I don't want to discredit that because it is kind of a funny, extraterrestrial horror sort of concept.
Men in Black.
But this to me is also a really spooky illustration of something that happens in conspiracy theory groups and high control groups, et cetera, et cetera. The patterns of distorted thinking and mental gymnastics that are required to maintain certain beliefs in the face of conflicting evidence.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of Bob's actions are consistent with confirmation bias, which is the tendency to seek out, remember, and favor information that confirms one's pre-existing beliefs while ignoring or dismissing evidence that contradicts them. And also cherry picking, also known as the fallacy of incomplete evidence, which involves selectively choosing isolated data points or studies that support their theory while ignoring the larger body of evidence that contradicts it.
This is sounding political. Is this getting political?
Maybe a tad.
Because I'm sitting here thinking, yeah, this is such an important discussion in regard to like groupthink and like cult mentality.
Yep.
And
just
like
any
people
kind
who
of
get so deep into like a belief system
that you're going to choose that over everything else. You're going to prioritize that mentally over everything else. And it's not just an emotional choice. It's something that's programmed into you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's also because like you've typically given up your entire life. You've devoted your existence to this cause, and you have burned bridges. You have destroyed relationships.
Where else are you going to go?
You've drained your bank accounts. You've changed your identity.
That would be the sunk cost fallacy, that you've already sunk too much into this to back out now.
And sometimes it leads you to almost murder your own children.
Right. This moment, I think, is a textbook backfire effect, which means when presented with factual information that directly refutes their beliefs, some individuals will not only reject the evidence, but will double down and strengthen their belief in the misinformation, even creating new stories to confirm their belief.
It's like a rollover effect of like having to continually convince yourself that something is true.
How much deeper do I have to go? And it's psychological. I'm not blaming anyone necessarily. It's hard not to when you want to present evidence and, talk about science, talk about facts, talk about data. But in the grand scheme, it's a psychological thing that's happening. Because when you're in this deep, challenging a deeply held belief is perceived as a threat to your whole entire nervous system, which triggers a defensive psychological response. Regardless, it is positively haunting to witness, whether on screen or in life. Douglas reports live that a large, hulky man is about to wring the alien leader's scrawny neck, but an odd football-headed boy seems to be trying to stop him. Bob tries to wave him off, saying he's trying to save the world, and when he waves Arnold off, Harvey and Marty interpret this to be the signal, which catapults the exploding beepers their way in a mailbag, and it crashes into the tower, sending a torrent of water down onto the kids and finally washing away the permanent exterior latex.
How? You can't rub it off, but all of a sudden just a little bit of water?
All of a sudden just a little bit of water does the trick.
If the water would do that, so would their sweat from running up the hill.
Absolutely true. So convenient. Maybe there's more chemicals in that water tower than we want to know about.
Hey, that's
Who's
a whole
a conspiracy
nother discussion.
theorist now?
It's all the fluoride.
It's been me the whole time, you big goof!
Oh, holy cow! I almost killed my own daughter! I'm a monster!
And that, my dear, dear Darklings, is pretty dark.
Dark. So the man who makes it his responsibility, his cause to save the planet, is unknowingly willing to take the life of his own daughter to achieve that goal.
We've talked about this allegory before in multiple contexts.
Abraham, God,
We've done that one before on the show.
Been there, done that. Moving on.
But I will say, as a word of caution and warning to anyone who is devoting themselves to a belief system, political stance, structure, etc., that causes them to forsake their family or their friends or their life or their livelihood or any number of things that make them themselves, maybe think again. Think for another second. Just keep thinking about it. Just don't stop thinking about it.
It's okay to like close the YouTube tab, close your computer, sleep on it.
Sleep on it.
Just like
sleep
take a
on it
nap.
is pretty good advice. But the way these algorithms and things are built and written, I've been talking with my friends a lot about this recently, about how like the short form video content is clickbaity and all that stuff. It's just formatted for a certain level of cognition. It makes it easy to believe and think certain things, and longer form content that holds more nuance and maybe data, facts, information, sources, citations is boring and not as clickable. And that is a sad, sad reason why, part of many reasons why we're in the state we're in. Take the time to go beyond the clickbait, go beyond the soundbite.
Go beyond the soundbite.
Think of us. Or think of Big Bob and his almost fatal mistake.
It's going to be a reference. Think of Big Bob.
What would Big Bob do?
WWBBD.
He embraces Helga while the crowd cheers and hollers, and Douglas is stunned into silence. And nearby, in a welding mask, Grandma manages to restore power to the grid. Because what can't that crazy lady do?
Bingo.
Nobody's ever solved an electrical problem with a welder. Never once in the history of man.
A welding torch hasn't fixed all power outages ever?
Never.
No.
Not once. I'm probably wrong. But not like this.
The crowd disperses as Douglas delivers his final message.
The whole wild affair is exposed as a ridiculous hoax. I can assure you that Douglas Kane
is a big, pompous windbag. Let's all go home and get some sleep. What do you say?
Just like Christian Mott, host of That's Pretty Dark, I've been accused of being a pompous host.
Yeah, they didn't call you a windbag, though.
No, that's just a given. But
it goes right hand in hand with pompous.
Pompous is not a term that has...
It's not a frequently used term, even.
It's not even used, but it was used especially to describe me as a podcast host.
They said I was meek, so what are you going to do?
And I just think it's really funny because any ounce, any semblance of confidence that I managed to get across the microphone to other people is just to mask the crippling self-doubt I've struggled with since I was about 6 years old. So if anybody confuses my attempt at sounding even
bravado,
somewhat professional
on the mic,
in a microphone and sounding excited.
Leave it all on the mic.
I mean, it's, Jesus Christ.
The word pompous.
That didn't bother me for a couple weeks. That didn't eat away at my self-esteem.
The ones with better vocabularies are harder to shake, I will say.
That's true. She was very articulate.
Quite articulate, that review.
Pompous windbag.
Pompous windbag. Arnold assures Grandpa that he'll never do a prank like that again. And Grandpa's dismayed because what is he talking about? You terrified the entire city and nearly caused the end of the world. And he's proud of Arnold. He even gives him some candy.
Yeah, have some candy. Oh, these are cockroaches.
Happy Halloween, everybody!
Grandma, who's now climbed the water tower, calls out her witchy Happy Halloween.
And the water tower turns into a pumpkin because why not?
Because why not? It's projected onto the water tower.
You know what it is, though? That's got to be a reference to Psycho.
Oh, yeah.
The very, very last frame of his close-up turns into like a half skeleton.
I didn't see that online, but
that... Not everybody's as cinematically...
Careful, your pompous is showing.
This is why they think I'm pompous. I'm just trying to sell a brand. Let me make my art.
I love so many things about this episode. So much.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
But I will never be able to wax poetic enough about the cultural gratitude that I feel on behalf of my generation and personally to Hey Arnold and its creators. Because they regularly paid homage to so many layers of time and entertainment history. And they exposed us to all kinds of tropes and pop culture events that we otherwise might have missed out on. I think of it in terms of the Carmen the Opera episode, even things in Pigeon Man and Headless Cabby, these tropes, these ideas, while they were present in other films I saw and cartoons and media, a lot of it is cartoon history, like we've talked about with Looney Tunes. We talked about that with David Stephen Cohen of Courage the Cowardly Dog, and how a lot of those tropes do continue on through time and leave their footprint and impression as they go. But to me, for my sensibilities and like my worldview and the way that I see things, almost no one did it or does it better than Hey Arnold. It's baked in so well. Even when they kind of have to step out of their way, like go out of their way a little bit to make a reference or do a thing, it's done in such a way that makes me curious. I can tell that it's a reference, which isn't a bad thing. I want to know more about what that is and why.
Right. It's engaging.
Is what led us here today.
Nothing about it feels like a gimmick.
It never feels like a gimmick, and it never feels like we're being talked down to, but it is always done in such a way that I, as a child, could tell when something was referencing something else. Like it wasn't so seamless that it didn't want you to know what was happening. And that is, to me, part of the magic of Hey Arnold, kind of like a Wishbone or, stories like that, where they left you kind of clues and breadcrumbs for what to follow and how to get where they are. And it's just amazing to me. So much of my like pop culture and media education came from media and pop culture, and I love it. We say it all the time, but this Pretty Dark Stuff, Hey Arnold especially, opened so many windows of experience and thought and curiosity. It helped us feel represented, and also it served as kind of a springboard for our education, curiosity, learning, and everything else. So thank you to Craig Bartlett and the rest of the Hey Arnold team.
Craig.
This has always been one of my favorites. I loved the opportunity to go so deep in a like sociological phenomenon, because sociology is like my favorite thing in the world. And every facet of this was entertaining, because we'd all heard the story, we all knew the idea, but like uncovering the truth of it, the truth behind it, the studies that were done after the fact on the surveys, everything that went into that moment in time is so interesting, and it tells us so much about humanity and society as a whole, just like the media we consume.
It's such an interesting look back at the past and how something like that could have an effect. Like, I mean, we look at like how could a simple radio program scare anyone? How could King Kong scare anyone? How could the very first film ever made of that train coming toward the camera scare anyone?
Everybody in the audience. People jumped out of their seats.
Like literally having panic attacks, passing out, running out of the theater, like because
innovation. Anytime something's new.
I mean, how scared are so many of us of like AI and like robots? They're literally inventing robots.
We were just saying we don't use AI, and we're like kind of weirdly morally opposed in some aspects. We should be right now, because it's bad for the environment and bad for everything. But like
as creatives, we have to be.
The thing is, it's not a bad thing. It's another industrial revolution if we let AI do the things humans shouldn't have to do.
Right.
And it allows humans to do more of the creative human aspects of life.
This thing is, you can invent a new tool, and then the tool can take any shape as long as it serves a purpose. Like if AI becomes a tool that humans use to get better at what they do, great.
Right.
If it begins replacing
human knowledge, connection,
just jobs in general, and that's bad. It's very bad.
The reliance on it in like colleges and schools is scary.
And now they're talking about like an AI quote unquote actress that's supposedly about to be signed by all these different major agencies to be in films, and that's such a massive screw up of a situation. And who knows even what about that is true, because there's a lot of sensational articles coming out about this AI quote unquote actress,
because there is fear mongering with it too. I mean, and then again, you got to look at the reality, like the studies, people's brains on AI, people that talk to AI versus people who don't, the cognition and the cognitive deficits that can come from it. Like you have to look at that stuff too. It's not just we're scared of the new technology, because that again has stood the test of time in humanity and history. But I think it's bigger than that.
Talk about confirmation bias. It feeds into what you feed it. It just pumps it back out at you. But I'm particularly afraid of like people developing robots to like live in your house and like be your maid.
Smart house.
Animatronics, sure. This is AI, artificial intelligence in real time. So that kind of stuff scares me. I mean, iRobot.
What was the Shia LaBeouf one? Eagle Eye.
I never saw that.
You should look it up and watch it.
So this stuff is scary to us now, or at least to me, but that kind of thing was scary. Hey, There could be an alien invasion any day.
The Circle with Emma Watson.
Never saw that.
That one's spooky. We're entering October now, so it's the perfect time to be talking about our fears. And this is a rising tide of fear for millennials and honestly everyone else.
Remember when we were gonna we were trying to brand the podcast, trying to figure out what each episode was gonna be. We were gonna open every episode talking about what we were afraid of this week.
Yeah, what are you afraid of this week? And we kind of inadvertently end up doing that.
But we ended up talking about like
not.
our lifelong fears, I think, more than anything else. It just happens to be there's something new to be afraid of every single week now.
Well, it's a time for fear.
Each generation is afraid of something different, which is why different types of horror have come out of each era. Each decade,
and that's what we were talking about
has its own style.
At the top of tonight's episode with the monsters and what that says about society and our fears.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, our fears are not only getting replaced, but being overtaken in the food chain, so to speak, by robots. AI.
Artificial intelligence.
One of these days, robots are going to be lined right up there with mummies and skeletons and jack-o'-lanterns and ghosties.
Honestly, yeah. Give it 50 years.
Yeah.
Looking back, robots will be right there.
There will be like a primitive robot that's like, that was pretty scary at the time.
Gotta write that robot novel.
Yeah.
Wait, I think that was iRobot. Yeah, it's been done. Speaking of what's been done, I think we did it.
We did it. 4 years. Thank you so much, dear Darklings, for listening. Thank you for being there with us and for us.
4 more years.
We're right here celebrating with you.
Guys, it's October. It is time to be who you are. To be as real as you've always felt you are deep down underneath all the fabric and the lace and the stitches.
It's our time now.
It's time to be who we really are.
If you want more time with us, you can find us on social media at That's Pretty Dark Podcast on Instagram, at That's Pretty Dark on TikTok.
And I haven't started yet, but I'm still hoping to get back to some ghost stories on our Patreon. If you want to check that out, we definitely have some from a few years ago, 13 to be exact, as well as plenty of other bonus content from episodes.
Fun to revisit or visit if you haven't before.
So if you're looking for a little bit of extra spooky content this spooky season, you can go to patreon.com/tpdpodcast, and it's only $5 a month.
What could be better? $5 a month that you are sharing with us so we can keep sharing with you.
Hey, I like that.
You can send us your spooky moments and memories. Tell us who you're going to be or what you're going to be, what you're going to do for Halloween via email at that'sprettydarkpodcast@gmail.com.
Start gathering your firewood for your cauldrons.
Yeah, go buy your Halloween candy.
Ooh, I've been doing that.
I need to stock up.
Next stop for me is going to be going to get all my pumpkins from my usual spot.
There's not quite a chill in the air yet for us, but maybe there is somewhere where you're listening, and we hope that you are enjoying every moment of it. And I guess now all that's left is for us to sign off and get back to work, because we've both got more research to do for October.
What a week. I'm recording this episode, about to finish editing another one, and I need to research the next one.
Stacked.
I'm hitting the trifecta.
Stacked. All at once.
Stacks on stacks on stacks.
Thank you for your patience and your participation. We love you.
You guys are spooky as hell, and that makes me excited for life.
And we'll be back in your ears soon. We promise.
Gonna go look for the mothership.
Tell us, where were you when you learned about the War of the Worlds 1938 broadcast?
That's Pretty Dark Podcast is produced by Kaylin Andrews and me, Christian Baxter Mott.
With music by Jonathan Simmons and cover design by Halftone Horror.
You can support our show by supporting our sponsors, or go to patreon.com/tpdpodcast to unlock all the Pretty Dark bonus content we have in store.
Please share your experiences and let us know what shows, films, or villains still haunt you from childhood on our socials or at that'sprettydarkpodcast@gmail.com.
For all other information, visit our website, that'sprettydark.com.
Remember, you're never really alone.
So, until next time, sweet dreams, everyone.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Hey Darklings, Kaylin here. We know our generation has a surplus of pretty darkness in common, and if there's one thing unpacking our upbringing has taught us, it's just how essential therapy is for shining a flashlight on the darkness in our own lives. I don't know where I'd be without mine. I believe every human can benefit from the perspective of a licensed therapist, Whether you're familiar with your own inner workings or you're just looking for a listening ear, you can give BetterHelp online therapy a try by going to betterhelp.com/prettydark and receive 10% off your first month. I get that online therapy can be tricky, but I've been seeing my therapist online since 2020, and I'm here to tell you that it's absolutely worth it. Getting started is always the hardest part, and BetterHelp makes that easy. You can begin right from your phone or computer in whatever way makes you most comfortable, via good old-fashioned phone calls, video chats, or even messaging, if that's more your style. We enjoy this frightful nostalgia and learning about how it all connects, but Darklings know we're also passionate about healing and growing from what we learn. If you dare to do the same, head to betterhelp.com/prettydark. There you can answer a few questions, and BetterHelp will match you to a professional who has years of experience helping people like us. Plus, you can switch therapists at any time, so you're sure to find the right connection. Millennials are ditching the stigma and owning our mental health. And with BetterHelp, you can build a relationship with a professional all from the comfort of your own home, just how we like it. Visit betterhelp.com/prettydark or choose That's Pretty Dark podcast during sign up and enjoy 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/prettydark.